Awesome, we're recording. I'm Katie Lance, and we are going to be talking all about how to map out your 2025 social media plan, how to map out a 12-month plan. So very excited for our conversation here today. We're going to have a lot of fun. If you guys are at a place where you can take notes, feel free to grab a pen, piece of paper. Feel free to take pictures of anything on the screen. Everything's being recorded, so this might be something that you want to watch back later on. And then if you have questions during our time together, feel free to unmute, or if you just want to type in the chat, that's fine too. You can do that as well. So let me see if I can share my screen and we will get things started here. Here we go. All right. So, like I said, we are talking all about how to map out your 12-month social media plan. I'm so excited to be doing this at the beginning of the year. And I so appreciate the invite back. And I'm excited to be back in March also to be teaching Instagram. So I feel like this is such a great time to talk about what's going on the next 12 months. I know for a lot of folks that we work with, a lot of folks do business planning and content planning in the fall, November, December, but the reality is the holidays can be a busy time. So if you're feeling at all a little bit behind, or you want to make sure that your plan is how you want it to be, you're in the right space. So we're going to give you lots of tips, tools, and strategies to really make you have the best year that you can have in 2025 and beyond. So I'm very excited about that. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Katie Lance. I'm the founder and CEO of Katie Lance Consulting and the Get Social Smart Academy. I'm author of the book Get Social Smart. I've been featured in Inman News and Wall Street Journal, Social Media Examiner, all kinds of great publications. And really for the past almost 2 decades, we've been working with agents and brokers, helping them get smarter about social media. We really believe when it comes to social media that it's not the end all and be all. It's not the silver bullet. But when done right, it can make a huge difference in your business. It's a great way to stay in touch with clients, with past clients, with future prospects. It's also a great way to attract people who don't yet know you. And you can see a few pictures of myself on the screen here. I'm happily married. My husband Paul and I have been married 22 years. We've been in business together 12 years. So partners in life, partners in business. We have 2 teenage boys who keep us very busy. I'm a keynote speaker, spoken at Inman and NAR and lots of great association and brokerage events. And I share all that because at the end of the day, I really think time is our most precious asset. I feel this very deeply as a mom and a wife and a business owner. Time is our most precious asset. So as we talk about today, mapping out your 12-month plan, I always like to do so with the lens of how can we do so in a way that doesn't take a whole lot of time? Because I don't know about you, but I don't think anyone needs to be spending hours on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or any platform, right? I think there's a lot of great strategies that we can implement. Speaking of social media, I do have my QR code up here for my Instagram. So if you're at a place where you can take out your phone and scan that, that'll take you over to my Instagram. If you're on Instagram, would love if you give me a follow. And one of the things I was asked during our trainings, we did this last time, was as we're going through training, if you hear a nugget, if you hear an aha, take out your phone, take a picture of the screen or take a selfie if you'd like, and share it to your story, share it to Facebook or Instagram, and tag me. Let me know that you tuned in and why you tuned in. I think a lot of times when we think of social media, we're sharing things and we do, I did this, but something like this, you're doing really for your clients. So you can serve your clients at a higher level. So feel free to tag me, and I'm going to hop on social media later and would love to connect with you. So we're talking about social media today because for most of us, a lot of us look like this, right? We're on our phones a lot. Our devices have become really the first screen that we look at in the morning. I know back in the day, people would say that your phone is like the second screen, but I don't know about you. I feel like it really is the first screen. We look at it. Typically, it's the first thing that we look at. It's the thing we look at sometimes, unfortunately, as we're multitasking. Some of you are looking at your phone right now as I'm talking. And so attention, keeping people's attention, I think is a big part of things, right? Not to mention, we are constantly bombarded with notifications and new posts and follow here and subscribe for this. And there's just more noise than ever before. I remember back in the day, I'm probably dating myself, but I remember growing up with a TV that looked like this. I'm sure some of you can remember these type of TVs. We only had like 13 options. It was very simple, and it's just changed. The world has changed, right, in so many ways. I also remember back in the day when I first got my Facebook account. I don't know how long ago that was, but we started to connect with people we had never connected with before, friends and family and coworkers. And I actually remember, again, I'm probably dating myself, but I remember back in the day of Facebook going through my news feed, and there was actually a moment where it said, "That's it. You've seen everything. You've caught up." And that will never happen now, right? There's just the endless scroll. You will never catch up. So social media in 2025 is so much different than, it was even just 5, 10 years ago. And so when we think about social media, it's important to think about, again, how do we think about it as a way to be intentional and to cut through the noise? So I think it's all about getting it on your schedule. And I'm going to share 4 big tips for time blocking as you think about your 2025 plan. I find that if something's not on the schedule, it's probably not going to happen. And a lot of times with social media, it becomes this bolt on where we bolt it onto our business when we have time versus actually integrate it into our schedule. So I'm going to share with you 4 things that have made a huge difference for me, as well as the agents that we work with inside of our Get Social Smart Academy. The first is daily time blocking. So I recommend that you set aside about 10 or 15 minutes a day to do a couple things. You can see on the screen here, I have something called Focus 5. Focus 5 simply means take a few minutes a day, scroll through your feeds, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, like wherever you're spending time, and look for 5 posts that really speak to you and like, comment, and interact with them. Now, don't be a drive-by liker. Don't just jump in, like 5 things, and then leave, but leave a meaningful comment. And a meaningful comment in the world of social media is a comment that's at least 4 words. 4 words. So instead of saying great pic or wow or happy birthday, you might say, oh, happy birthday, Susan. What do you have going on today? Or wow, Joe, that's an amazing picture. Did you guys just get back from vacation? Do you see how that feels a little bit different? You ask a question, you use someone's name. It's just a little bit more thoughtful. It's this idea of being a good finder, looking for posts that speak to you, that make you smile or laugh, or there's something interesting, and just taking 10 or 15 minutes a day to do that. The reason why this is so important is because obviously real estate's a relationship business, right? And social media is social, right? It's that small thing that really does make a big difference over the course of time. I mentioned earlier, I have 2 teenage boys, which if you have teenagers in your life, you can send me a prayer, right? There's teenagers will definitely keep you young at heart. And one of the things I always tell my teenagers is be a noticer, like notice what's happening in the world around you. And I will say the same thing on social media. We don't want to just jump in, post something, and then bail, right? We want to be a noticer. We want to notice what other people are posting. So that's why I always say, don't be a drive-by liker. Take a few minutes to like, comment, engage. Also use this time, and it's not on your screen here, but use that time to respond to your notifications, answer your DMs. When done right, social media is going to spark a conversation, which means you're going to get more DMs and you're going to get more comments. And instead of just liking those comments, go back. In fact, if you posted something a few days ago, even if you posted something, maybe the last time you posted something was Happy New Year, and you had a number of comments, go back and comment back to those people. And the reason why that's really important is if you look at, for example, Facebook and Instagram, if you were to go on those platforms today, you're going to see content that people posted today, but you're also going to see comments from like 5 days ago, a week ago, and you go, why? Why am I seeing posts that are a week old? You're seeing posts that are a week old because there's still a conversation happening in the comments. There's still a conversation happening in the comments. So one of the ways to kind of boost the algorithm and get your content in front of more people is to go back. If you've already had comments on posts from a few days ago, go back, comment back. You're going to spark that conversation. And guess what? Other content that you're posting is going to get a little bit of a boost in the feed as well. It's a little bit of my favorite hack, so to speak. So that's 10 or 15 minutes a day you're going to put on your schedule. On a weekly basis, I recommend that you set aside about 30 to 60 minutes once a week where you're going to post or schedule some of your content. And at the end, I'm going to share a couple of my favorite tools for scheduling. By scheduling, I don't mean like set it and forget it, where you're just like pushing a button and automating everything. We're not going to do that, but take a few minutes. I typically do this on Fridays because for me, that's a good day to do it. And you're going to look ahead, like what's coming up? What do you want to post next week? Is there something that you got coming up? You've got a new listing, maybe you've got a community event, maybe you want to share a tip, and just thinking ahead. I hear a couple of folks. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself just to keep it simple, that'd be awesome. So weekly 30 to 60 minutes once a week or so to post and schedule. And when it comes to posting content, the good news is I don't think you need to post every single day. I think consistency is more important than anything else. And we're going to get into some content ideas here in just a minute. On a monthly basis, I recommend that you set aside about an hour or two every month to batch create content. And this is a big thing. So when it comes to content, the best type of content that you can post in 2025 is content in your voice, with your opinion, with your personality. We want to see you, we want to hear you. But the elephant in the room is that for a lot of folks, when it comes to creating content, especially getting on camera, seeing your face, a lot of us, if I can be real, we don't like how we look, we don't like how we sound, we don't want to do it. So then we don't do it. And I'll never forget, I had a very good friend of mine many years ago who very lovingly reminded me, she was like, Katie, that's how you look and that's how you sound. So you got to get over it. So I will lovingly tell you the same thing, because the best type of content is content where it's not just how to winterize your home. How do you winterize your home? It's not just the best tip for getting a house ready for the market. How do you get your house ready for the market? I want to hear from you. I want to hear your insight, your hot takes, your opinions, right? And I think that's a big shift in how content has been over the years. So sharing content that's helpful or informative, but also sharing it from your point of view is huge. And the reason why I say batch it all in one batch is because, like I said a second ago, if I'm going to do my hair and makeup and record one video, I'm probably going to record a number of videos all in one batch. It doesn't mean you post it all in one batch, but if you're thinking ahead going, okay, if I don't have to post once a day, maybe I can just do one a week. If you're doing, let's just say you want to do one video a week, maybe like a 30-second, 60-second quick tip once a week. Okay, that's probably 4 or 5 videos a month, which means could you take an hour or two once a month to create those 4 or 5 videos, right? All in one batch. Could be at your home office, could be as you're out and about. And you might also set a little bit of time aside for editing if you're going to do any editing. And again, I'm going to share some tools for how to do that in just a minute. The last piece of this time blocking is getting yourself some time on your schedule, 1 or 2 days every year, where you're going to look back. And I typically do this at the end of the year, but if you didn't do this in November, December, you could do it anytime. You could do it right now, this month, if you'd like. Set aside a day or so where you're going to put your out of office on. And it's a great opportunity to look back over the last 12 months to see, what did I post? What did well? What didn't I do well? What platforms do I want to be on? Because honestly, I don't think you have to be everywhere. I don't think you have to be on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Pinterest and Twitter. And, you don't have to be everywhere, but pick 1 or 2 that you enjoy and that your clients are on. So get it on your schedule. This is really, really key. Okay. The next thing, once we think about time blocking, is to think about the relationship part of social media. So don't worry, we're going to get into content. I'm going to give you lots of content ideas. But as I said a second ago, real estate's a relationship business. And relationships are built with these small, tiny interactions over the course of time. Every like, every comment, every share, it adds up. It's just like in real life. When we meet someone for the first time and then we run into them at the grocery store and then we realize, oh, our kids go to the same school. We build these small little relationships over the course of time. And it's one of the reasons why it's so important in social that you show up. A lot of times I'll hear from agents who say, I wish I could just have someone do it all for me, right? I've got so many things going on, which I totally understand and respect. But again, at the end of the day, relationship building, social media, this is just one more piece of your strategies, one more piece of your marketing strategy, and just making sure you're taking that time to be intentional. Again, you don't have to spend all day, but this is where time blocking can make a huge, huge difference. So in terms of types of content, I would encourage you to think about creating a pillar content plan. So what the heck is pillar content? Okay, pillar content is typically content in your voice, with your opinion, your personality. It could be video content that you're recording on your phone. It could be blog content. It could be podcast content. It's typically content that is helpful, that's informative. A lot of times too, what's really great is pillar content can be timeless or evergreen, meaning it's not necessarily like what's happening right now in the market, but it's like stuff that you get asked all the time, like who pays for what, how to find a lender, the biggest mistake every first-time home buyer makes. It's just those frequently asked questions. And it doesn't mean that you can't post timely content, because you certainly can. As things come up in the news, things come up in your market, listings come up. But if you can get yourself into a cadence of at least once or twice a month, or even once a week, posting a pillar piece of content, the leads that you get from that type of content are typically so much better, because it's not just about selling a house. You're being informative, you're being helpful, and we're hearing you and seeing you. The other beautiful part about pillar content is that if it's somewhat evergreen or timeless, you can repost it, which is a beautiful thing. And a lot of us have never posted something more than once. We think, well, I don't want to be annoying, I don't want to spam people. And I'm certainly not suggesting that we start spamming people. However, because social media moves so fast, we don't see everything. Even the people who love you the most, your biggest fans, do not see everything. Trust me. I was talking to my parents the other day about some of the content we put out, and my dad was like, wait, what, how many YouTube videos do you do? Wait, he completely did not even know what was happening. And it's like, it's all good, right? The people who love you the most may not see all your content. So it's just a reminder to post and repost content periodically. I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that in just a second. I want to give you an example of pillar content. So I joked a second ago about YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel. We post there typically a couple times a month. I also have a podcast as well. And in 2025, we're kind of alternating. So one week you might see a video from me on YouTube, and then the next week you might see a podcast, YouTube video, podcast. We kind of go back and forth. And that's longer form content. That's pillar content. And what's nice about this content is because it's longer form, we can take that content and we can kind of slice and dice it. So for example, I did a podcast recently about goal setting in 2025. It was a 15 or 20-minute podcast that I recorded. That's a long form piece of content. But all that content that I recorded, I could take that and create a bunch of little short form videos. I could take that and turn that into an email newsletter, right? I could repurpose it. Somebody's not muted. No worries. Okay, thank you. Sorry, guys. So that's the beautiful part about pillar content. If you are just getting started, the idea of pillar content might feel a little overwhelming. So this is a little bit more of an advanced tip. But if you've been already doing some content, maybe you've been doing a bunch of reels or short form video, you might consider at some point doing some longer form video like YouTube or podcast content or blog content, primarily because with that longer form content, you can again kind of chop that up into smaller bits. And over the course of time, it can be a great way to repurpose content. So just a couple of things to consider as you think about your plan. Also, when it comes to YouTube, YouTube is owned by Google. It's the second largest search engine in the world. And so the nice part about longer form content is it tends to have a longer shelf life. People will download a podcast I recorded 6 months ago. People watch my videos that I posted 2 years ago, which doesn't happen anywhere else. That doesn't happen on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else. So just something to consider as you think about long-term. This may not be something you do right out of the gate right now in January, especially if you are on the kind of the beginning stages of social media, but perhaps it's something you think about in Q2 or Q3 or in the summer, thinking about creating a little bit of a longer content strategy or longer content. What's interesting about this is with longer content, there's a lot of focus on like quick content, stuff that's really digestible because there's so much noise. But I also do think on the flip side, I think there is a hunger for content that's a little bit deeper, a little bit meatier, right? When we look at real estate, I look at some of the folks we've worked with, and some of them who we've worked with inside of our academy have done longer form content on, really important subjects. Like, for example, first-time home buying. You could probably do a 20-minute video on everything about first-time home buying, but that video can also then get kind of spliced up in a little 30-second, little tips and things like that you can post over the course of time. So lots of benefits for sure. And ultimately, the reason behind content, whether you're doing long form content like YouTube or podcast, or maybe you're just like, hey, Katie, I can only do short 30-second videos right now. That's my bandwidth. It's all good. Regardless of where you're at, the business reason for taking time to do this and to get on camera is that the leads you get from this type of content are so much better. Because let me tell you what happens when you start to do this. Let's say you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I could do one video a week, right? I could do like a 30-second video once a week. I could do that, right? When you start to do this once a week consistently over the course of time, you're going to start to hear things from people like, oh my gosh, I see you everywhere. I feel like I know you. I feel like you're in my head. And those kind of people, when they're ready to work with you, they are ready to work with you. They're not shopping around, calling 12 different realtors. No, they know you. They have watched all your Instagram reels or your YouTube videos. They have listened to all your podcasts. They've been reading your email newsletters for the last year. And that's the thing. It takes time. Sometimes it'll happen right away. And sometimes it takes people lurking for a while. I've often had people reach out and they're like, I've been following you for years. And I'm thinking, I have no idea who they are, but they know who I am. And that's part of the beauty of what happens with content. And then it's up to you to decide if you want to work with them. So it's really the difference between attracting business versus chasing leads. It's a really cool way of doing business. I talked a little bit about video because there are different types of video and different types of content, right? We talked about blog content, podcast content, video content. The reality is with video, I tend to lean in a lot to video because most people retain 95% of the message in a video compared to only 10% of what they read in text. And honestly, for most people, when it comes to creating content, the easiest type of content, the content that's quick and simple, is going to be video because you don't need a whole lot of fancy equipment. That's the beautiful thing. I remember doing video forever ago and not having an iPhone, right? I'm again probably dating myself, but we all have a mobile device, right? There's all kinds of equipment you could use, but keeping it simple really does make a big difference. I saw a couple messages in the chat. I'm just going to look here really quick. Nancy says, is it my internet or are we having issues? Oh, okay. No issues on our end. Okay. All right. And everything's being recorded. So for some reason you're having any issue hearing something, it's all being recorded. So if you have to go back and listen to anything. Okay. So video is huge, obviously. Okay. The other thing with video and just sharing your expertise is it answers this question of like, what does it feel like to work with you? What does it feel like to work with you? And this is the difference between us seeing you and hearing you versus just posting something that's like a static graphic. We tend to see this a lot in real estate. And if you've been in real estate a long time, I'm sure you've seen this. You may also maybe be guilty of posting anything like this. So this isn't made to make anyone feel bad. It's just that social media has changed. You know, a few years ago, we could get away with posting kind of this sort of generic graphic about curb appeal or, you know, getting your home ready for the market, and it would be fine. It would probably get, you know, okay traction. But there's this sea of sameness, right? And I often will tell the agents we work with in our academy, I'll say, you know, if I were to go to your Facebook page or your Instagram page right now and take the logo off all your posts, would I know it's from you? Would I know it's from you? If I were to take the logo off all your posts, would I know it's from you? And that's the beauty of us hearing you and seeing you is we can hear your opinion. We know who you are. And the good news is you don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. I have a good friend of mine, also named Katie. Her name is Katie Clancy. She's a realtor out in Cape Cod. And she often will tell me, she said, you know, Katie, I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I know I'm somebody's shot of tequila. And I love that. I don't know who needed to hear that today, but you may not be everyone's cup of tea. You might be someone's shot of tequila. And I think that's just such an important thing. We don't have to be all things to all people. So one of the things that's important as you go down this sort of rabbit hole of time blocking and figuring out, you know, your content strategy is it's important to think about what your voice is, right? You're all part of different brands, but figuring out who do you love to work with? Like the people who call you. And if you think about people you've worked with the last 6 to 12 months, I'm sure there's people that automatically come to mind that you're like, oh, that person was awesome. I love that family. I love that person. What was it about them? Was it, you know, a certain, was it their personality? Was it a demographic? Was it just something that happened in the transaction? Alternatively, what about the people you've worked with that it was just a challenge, right? You're like, never again. We've all had folks like that. So it doesn't mean you can't work with different types of people, but when it comes to your content, if the goal is for you to attract more of your people, the people you want to work with. And so doing a little bit of work, thinking about who do I want to work with? Who do I want to attract? What is it that I do that's different than other people, right? What are some of the things that I can do that I can highlight? Where do you work? Where is your geographic area? And I'm sure you've heard this before as well, but the more specific and niche you can be on the specific area of expertise, the better. And then making sure people know that, making sure that that's very clear in your social media profiles, making sure if I go to Facebook, I can clearly see like, oh, she's a realtor in this area, right? So often I will go to someone's social media profiles and I can tell they're a realtor, but I have no idea like what market area are they in? So being really clear, right, with what market area. And then lastly, your why. I know this feels a little maybe touchy-feely, but why are you here? Why are you in real estate? Each of you has a different story. Some of you are new to real estate. Some of you have been in real estate decades. But thinking about what your why is, and have you ever shared that? Have you ever shared why you're passionate about real estate and sharing that with your audiences? I do have a bonus tip that's on the screen here. I would encourage you to brainstorm a list of clients you've worked with in the last year or so. And again, think about who did you love to work with? What did they have in common? And that can be one way to really start to help think about the type of content that you want to put out there. Like I said, lean into who you are and who you're not. If you're sharing anything to social media, this is a great thing to take a picture of and share. Again, like I said earlier, you don't have to be everyone's cup of tea. You might be someone's shot of tequila. So lean into who you are and who you're not. Share not just tips and ideas, but again, share your insight. We want to hear from you, right? I was thinking about this recently. My husband and I are planning a pretty big trip. And so we've talked to a lot of different travel agents. And the one that we were really working with is the one where not only does she have the expertise and the experience, but she was willing to give her personal opinion. Like, hi, this is what I would recommend. If you go here, this is what I'd recommend. And I think especially when we work with a professional, we want that. We want your personal opinion. We want your professional opinion, which I think is key. And that can come out in our social media, in our content that we put out there. So one of the ways to get organized, because I've given you a lot of different things to think about, is I would highly encourage you to use a content grid. And I think some of you may have downloaded this the last time we had a class. I'm going to see if I can drop this link in the chat just in case you don't have it. This is a great free resource to check out. It's something we publish each and every year, and it's got tons of ideas and tips. Let's see if I can type and write this down also. Okay, there we go. So if you go to katielance.com/content grid, we've had, I don't know, probably tens of thousands of agents download this over the years. And whether you're new to this or whether you've been doing this a long time, this is going to be a great free resource. So when you go to that link, it'll ask for your name and email. Just put that in, and then we're going to send you this PDF. It's actually like an 8 or 9 page PDF that you're going to get that you can print out. And this will help you tremendously when you think about mapping out your 12-month plan. Because when I think about mapping out a plan, mapping out 12 months can feel a little daunting. If you can break it down to week by week, even month by month, and then get yourself into a routine that you can replicate, it's going to be a lot easier. And the content grid is designed to just give you a lot of different ideas. It's broken up into a few different categories: local real estate, national real estate, local community, personal interest, home and design. And to be honest with you, the way a lot of agents use this is when they're sitting down to get on camera or create content or post content, they can print it out and have it right there, right? And be able to, look at it and go, okay, great. I'm going to record 4 or 5 videos. I've got 30 ideas right in front of me. So when you download this, you'll get the full content grid that's a little generic. And what I would recommend is that you print it out, look at it, look at which ones make sense to you. And if there's certain ones that you're like, that's not me at all, cross that out. You're also going to get a blank grid and then a few pages with a bunch of ideas as well to help you kind of create your own schedule as well. And again, that was just katielance.com/content grid. So one other thing that I would encourage you to think about is, as you are thinking about your content, is get yourself into a weekly routine for where this content is going. Okay. And I'm going to give you 2 slides here that I think are going to help when you think about your distribution plan. So I talked about pillar content earlier, right? This idea of putting out at least like one piece of content once a week. And so let's say you're thinking about this. Okay. You're like, okay, Katie, I get it. I got to show up on camera. I got to, lean into who I am and who I'm not. Social media is a relationship thing. I get it. Maybe you like the idea of batching content like we talked about. Okay, cool. So if you're going to do 1 video a week, you're probably going to record 4 or 5 videos a month. Okay. So now you've got these videos. What do we do with them? So let's say you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm going to post 1 video a week, maybe on Tuesday. It'll be like a tip Tuesday, like a tip of the week. Okay, so you take that video, and on your screen here, you can see a schedule Monday through Friday. On the left-hand side, you're going to see Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You may not be on all 3. I'm just using this as an example. So Tuesday rolls around, you upload your first video to Facebook, your business page. You might also share it to your personal profile. You upload it to Instagram, and you upload it over to YouTube. Okay, that's Tuesday. A couple days go by. Thursday rolls around. You take that video from Facebook and you share that Facebook video, your Facebook reel, to your Facebook story. You take your Instagram reel and you share it to your Instagram story. You take your YouTube video and you send an email to your database, letting them know about the video and linking to the video. Friday rolls around. You can go to Facebook and you can reshare that video. Now, I know there's some of you who are like, what do you mean reshare? So you can either re-upload it, or you can just share it from that original post. And you might say something like, hey, if you missed our tip of the week, here's a tip where we cover X, Y, and Z. And again, as I talked about earlier, there's nothing wrong with resharing stuff. I don't remember what I had for breakfast 4 days ago, let alone what I saw on Facebook. And with the amount of things that are being shared, it's okay to reshare it. Friday, same thing. You can either re-upload it or you can reshare it again to your story. And then same thing on Friday. You can reshare that video. This especially works, that YouTube video. I wouldn't necessarily re-upload that YouTube video, but you can reshare that to, let's say you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Twitter or X, or if you're on, there's other platforms that are popping up like Threads or Blue Sky, share that on Friday. So what you've got here is you have one video that you've basically turned into 9 different posts. One video, 9 different posts, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about repurposing and working smarter, not harder. Now, from here, you can add in additional content. So from here, you can add in things like maybe a Monday market update, right? Or a Monday motivation. You could share a Wednesday wisdom, right? Something inspirational. If you've got a listing or an open house. But the idea is getting yourself into a routine. And I would encourage you, when you think about video content, pick a day and stick with it each week. For us, it's Wednesdays. For you, it might be Tuesday or Saturday. There's no perfect day, but get yourself into a routine, because it's a lot easier to have a weekly routine that you can just like rinse and repeat than reinvent the wheel every single week. Okay. So I wanted to share that with you. That way you have a little bit of a blueprint versus starting from scratch. All right. As far as your distribution strategy. If you have any questions, by the way, feel free to put those in the chat, and happy to answer any questions as well. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about repurposing, right? And basically repurposing isn't necessarily like spray and pray where you're just posting it everywhere, but repurposing can also be about taking one piece of content and turning it into something else. I talked about this earlier with my longer form YouTube video and podcast content. There's a lot of great AI tools that you can take that 10-minute video or 10-minute podcast and chop it up into shorter pieces of content. You can even work with a video editor, or there's lots of different ways that you can do it. I'm going to share some of my favorite tools in just a minute. But I think the bigger picture is content should never just be one and done. It's never just, I posted this, I shared this, and that's it. I mean, as an example, just this morning, I went on my Instagram, I shared, an Instagram story, and then I reshared a reel from 2 weeks ago to my story, because I know people don't see it the first time. So there's nothing wrong with going back a few days, a few weeks, again, especially if something is still relevant, and resharing it again. You will always get new eyeballs on it. I would also say too, diversifying your content a little bit. So as much as I love social media, and I have a whole business based on social media is rented ground. We don't own it, right? It's not on the screen here, but that might be something to write down just as a reminder. Social media is rented ground, which is why I think it's so important that you build your content library. Your content library goes with you wherever you go. So if it's TikTok today, and then it's not TikTok next week, if it gets banned, then maybe it's YouTube, or maybe it's Facebook, or maybe it's Instagram. We're not guaranteed anything, right? So building a content library that goes with you, that stays with you, is so important, which is why I also recommend that you don't let your content just live on those platforms, right? I always recommend downloading it. I have all my content stored. I use Dropbox. I'm not affiliated with Dropbox. I've just used it for years. You could use Google Drive. You could use whatever tool you have. But I download my content and I save it, because I know I can repost it. I can repurpose it over the course of time. And the way I do it, I actually have a folder in my Dropbox that just says, I have a folder for each year. So for example, for 2024, I have a folder of 2024 videos. And then I've actually broken them down by my January videos, my February videos, my March videos. And basically what I do is I record everything on my phone, I upload it there, and that way it's just saved. So I can repost it, I can repurpose it, and it's something that I own no matter what. The other thing I'd recommend is that you build your email database, right? I know email marketing is not as exciting to talk about as, say, like Instagram, but building your database, I think, is so important, and getting into a routine of using a tool to send out content, send out helpful information. I know for us, we send out an email newsletter once or twice a month, and it's helpful, it's informative, and oftentimes we are linking back to a YouTube video from 2 weeks ago, a reel I did 3 days ago, a podcast from a month ago, because people don't see it the first time. So it's a great way to be helpful and stay top of mind in your database. I'm just double checking to see if we had any questions. Okay, awesome. So repurpose your content. This is key. Some other content ideas. So I've given you the content grid, which is going to give you a ton of content ideas. But if you're still looking for a few other content ideas, I'm going to break it down into 5 different buckets of additional content just to kind of spark the conversation, because what I would love for you to walk away with is just a bunch of ideas as you can start to implement this into your own 12-month plan. Community content is always great, thinking about local community events, things that are important to you, things that are near and dear to your heart, your favorite businesses, your favorite local restaurants, your go-to places, especially if community is something that is really near and dear to you. I know for me, my kids did scouts when they were little. They did Little League, like things that were important to us, and leaning into that. One thing to think about with community content is from time to time, you might consider highlighting somebody or a business in your local community. Maybe it's your favorite restaurant, your favorite boutique, your favorite salon. One of the ways to grow social media and to reach new people is to be a good finder, to shine the light on somebody else, whether that's through a picture and you're tagging them, whether it's a video and you're interviewing them. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. But especially small businesses, it's such a big opportunity, I think, right now to reach out and say, hey, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm a local realtor. I'm featuring a small business once a month, and I would love to feature you. There's no cost. We'd just love to give you a shout out on social media. 9 times out of 10, they're going to love it. And 9 times out of 10, whatever you post, they're going to share it with their audience as well. So community content can be really, really positive, which we love. I'm just looking at the chat here. I see a question from Lisa. Lisa asked me, do you prefer stories over reels? Oh, that's a great question. I like both. So I don't think one over the other. Reels are permanent, right? Reels are there forever. And stories are here today and they disappear in 24 hours. So I think there's a place for both. I think for reels, I look at that as more permanent content, almost like your website. If I were to go to your website, it's going to give you a lot. It's going to give me a lot of ideas about who you are professionally. It's going to give me information about your community and business and clients you've worked with and listings. Your stories, I love to use your stories as a little bit more behind the scenes. So your stories is where you can also share your reels, but your stories are like, take me behind the scenes. Like, what the heck does a home inspection really mean? And what do you mean you're getting ready for a listing? What does that actually mean? And all those little things that you think, oh my God, that's so boring. That is an interesting story. So sharing a little bit of both. And part of that is because we do business with people we know, like, and trust and relate to. That relatability, I think, is huge. So thanks for asking that. I love that. Okay, so content ideas, community content. The second thing is processes. I kind of actually said this a second ago. Like, sharing your process doesn't mean you have to share all your secret sauce, but people have this like misconception about real estate, right? They watch HGTV, they think houses can be bought or sold in 44 minutes, which we know is not true. But just for sharing the process, because for most people, they buy or sell a home every 7 to 10 years. They have no idea. So sharing a little bit of what that looks like. What does escrow actually mean, right? What does it mean to do this or that? Same thing with myths. There's a lot of myths. What's the number one myth that you always see? What's the biggest myth that you encounter every time you talk to a new seller? What's the biggest myth every first-time home buyer has? Stories of the first listing you ever had, stories of the home you grew up in, stories of the client you worked with 6 months ago, stories of a really crazy situation that you were able to turn around. Sometimes a story can be an even more effective way to get our point across, right, than sharing a fact. I know when someone says, all right, story time, lean in, I'm like, all right, tell it to me. What do you got? So brainstorming a little bit of stories, I think, is key. And then mistakes, mistakes that you've seen, mistakes that you've done. I think there's something very vulnerable and humbling to be able to say, you know what, I'll never forget when I did this, and this is what I learned from that mistake, right? There's a lot of social media where there's a lot of perfection, right? We've seen this over the years. It's like everyone's highlight reel. Have you ever looked at someone's profile and felt like, come on, your life is not that perfect? I know, right? And I think there is a nice leaning towards, I think, a lot of us being just a little bit more real with stuff, right? We don't have to have a full face of makeup every time we're on camera. It's all good, right? So sharing a little bit more of who we are. Again, I think that goes back to that know, like, and trust factor. Doesn't mean we have to share every private moment, but I think it allows that relatability. Sometimes the most mundane things can be really relatable. Okay. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. The other thing I would say is that here's the good news. It is not about getting thousands of followers. I don't think you need to become the next Kim Kardashian. I don't think you need to be an Instagram influencer with 1 million followers. I think you need to have the right followers. And honestly, I don't even think the number of followers is as important as versus how many people are actually seeing your content. because social media has changed quite a bit. You know, in the beginning days of social media, when you went through your feeds, you were primarily seeing your friends and family and people you know. And if you've noticed recently, it's changed a lot. When you scroll through Facebook or Instagram, you're seeing somebody you know, you're seeing an ad, you're seeing a suggested post, someone you might know, another suggested post, right? And I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this because part of me just wants to see people I know. But part of how social media is moving in general, and this really started with TikTok, and now we're seeing this on Facebook and Instagram and a lot of platforms, is we are typically seeing content not just from people we follow, but we're seeing content that the algorithm thinks we might be interested in seeing. Right. And so, what that means in a good way for you guys is when you are posting content, about half of your content is going towards your followers, but the other half oftentimes is going to people who have never met you before, but they are interested in whatever type of content you might have. And the algorithm has served that getting in front of you. So I say all this to say, try not to get caught up on, oh, I only have 100 followers or 200 followers or 1,000 or, whatever it might be. I think the bigger number is how many people are seeing your content? What's your reach? And if you feel like a lot of people aren't seeing your content, you have to take a little bit of a hard look at your content and go, would I share my content? Would I be interested in my content? I shared this recently in our academy. I said, if you watch your own videos and you get bored by your own videos, there's your sign right there. Now, the flip side of that is you have to create a lot of content to get better, to feel more comfortable. You know, if you go back to my earlier YouTube videos, I mean, part of me just wants to take them down. The fact they're even up there is like, bad enough. But it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the better you get, right? I think about for a lot of folks when they first got licensed, think about if you've been in real estate a long time, think about back to when you first got licensed. You were licensed, but you probably had no idea what you were doing. And it's not till you just do the work. You've got to create a lot of work. And so I tell people it's not just create one video this month, create a lot of videos. I want you to get on camera a lot. I want you to push yourself out of your comfort zone. I bet there's a few of you who've heard a lot of people say this over the years. So let's do it. Let's have this year be the year that you do it. And I would also bet that there's probably some of you who might be thinking, well, there's other people in my market who are doing this, or I'm too old. I just want to say, first of all, those other people are not you, and you are not too old. So it's not too old. You're not too old. It's not too late. And there's so much opportunity, which is what is, I think, really, really exciting. Okay, I promised I would share some of my favorite recommended tools and apps. So I've got some of my favorite ones up on the screen here, and then we're going to open it up to questions here in just a few minutes. Okay, let me just close out of one thing here because I've got a little window open. Okay, so 5 of my favorite tools. Canva. I love Canva. I think when I saw the slides come up in the beginning, I saw a Canva window open. So I'm sure some of you use Canva. I've used Canva for years. Canva is a great tool. There's a free version. There's a paid version. I do recommend getting the paid version at some point because with the paid version, I think it's like $12.99 a month. You can do so many great things. You have access to AI tools. You can access their brand kit. There's just a million different things. Start with the free version for a while, but eventually the paid version I think is worth it. I'm not affiliated, by the way, with any of these tools. I just think they're great and I use them. So Canva is great for graphics. There's tons of templates. We use it for all different types of things, Reels, YouTube, thumbnails, videos, graphics, all kinds of great stuff. Even printed. We just actually ordered business cards from Canva recently, which is kind of cool. The second tool that I really love, I talked a lot about repurposing earlier. I love a tool called repurpose.io. This is also a paid tool, but there's a free trial where you can try it out. This is particularly great for those of you more advanced who've already been doing a lot of content. You might be listening to this going, okay, I've been doing Reels for a few years. If you've been doing video for a long time, you might look into doing subscribing to a service like Repurpose, because what it allows you to do, it allows you to take videos you've already posted and then repurpose them to other platforms. So for example, I have kind of a lot of my videos up on Repurpose. With basically a click of a button, I can repurpose an Instagram video over to TikTok or to Facebook or to LinkedIn or to different platforms versus having to download, upload. It's just makes it really easy. I can change out the caption. So it's a little bit more of an advanced tool, but I've been using it for about 2 years and I think it's great. It's a kind of an easy way to repurpose content. Google Drive, I mentioned earlier, I recommend having some sort of place that you're going to store your content. I have Google Drive up here on the screen. I mentioned I use Dropbox. There's other obviously cloud-based services. I just really think you should not have all your content living on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere else. Like save your content. It's your content. I would also say if you are working with a videographer and they're sending you links to videos they've made for you, even listings, download those. Those are your videos. You should have those saved somewhere, right? ChatGPT, we talked a lot about ChatGPT the last time I was here doing a class. ChatGPT has come a long way. It's been around 2 years now, which is kind of crazy. It's gotten better and better. There's still a free version, there's a paid version. I am using ChatGPT a lot, not necessarily to write for me, but just to help make ideas even better. For example, I'll just give you a quick example. I just did a video recently, and I got that video transcribed. I took the transcription, I uploaded it to ChatGPT, and I said, based on this transcription, can you write me a description for YouTube? And can you write me a post I could use when I'm posting this to Instagram and Facebook? So I'm still the one showing up on camera. I'm still the one with the ideas, but being able to say, hey, can you take this and now turn this into this? Or can you turn this also into an email newsletter? And just like, anything else, we don't want to just blindly copy and paste from ChatGPT. I find that as great as it is, it's still not 100%. It'll get you 50% of the way there, but you got to read it over, double check for accuracy and things like that. And then the fifth tool that I've been using quite a bit lately is ManyChat.com. I don't know if any of you are familiar with ManyChat. I've been using this for about a year. If you've been on Instagram or Facebook and you've seen people who say something like, comment below with this word and I'll send you this. The way they are doing that is through a tool called ManyChat. And it's a little bit more of an advanced tool, but I thought I would share it because I've been using it periodically. I find it's a great way to take folks from social media to your website or social media to your email newsletter or whatever it might be. So I'm going to share an actual real-time example. So we're going to do a little real-time activity real quick. Okay. So if you're at a place where you can scan this and you're on Instagram, if you scan this little QR code, this is going to take you to this post. This is a post I posted on January 10th about setting your business goals for 2025. So if you go to this post on my Instagram and you comment with the word podcast, like right now in live time, because I have an automation set up with ManyChat, once you comment in your Instagram DM, almost immediately, it should maybe take a couple seconds, you'll get a message from me that says, hi, here's the link to the podcast. Thanks for taking a listen, or something like that. Okay. And I'm going to see if I can pull it up here really quick. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Give me a thumbs up if it worked for you, if you were able to do that. I'm going to see if I can grab it real quick. I want you guys to see this in real time because the cool part about this, and I will tell you, I was a little resistant to, and I'm going to drop this link in the chat just in case you can't scan it for whatever reason. Okay, I dropped the link in the chat. So if you can't scan it, just click the link in the chat and that'll take you to this post. When you get to this post, you're going to see the little heart, the comment, hit the comment and just type the word podcast in the comment and check your DMs. You should get it right away. Okay, Stephanie gives me a thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, Chandra says it worked. Awesome. Oh, Nancy, paid version. I was talking about Canva, paid version of Canva. That's what I was talking about earlier. Okay, so it worked for most of you. If it didn't work, you can just email me and I'll send it to you. But I'm sharing this with you because I was a little resistant to set up any sort of automation. I don't use this every time I post to Instagram, but what I have found is that when you've got content and you want to point people towards something bigger, like for example, let's say you've got a first-time homebuyer guide. Well, you might have a bunch of little videos about being a first-time homebuyer, but imagine if you could say, hey, comment below with the word guide and I'll send you my first-time homebuyer guide. So now not only are you providing helpful information, it's not just people staying on social media. Now they're coming to your email list or they're coming to your website or they're downloading something, right? Does that make sense? So I want to share that with you guys because I think it's a cool tool. Again, I'm not affiliated with it, but it's just a great example of how that works. Okay. Any questions so far? So far, so good? Are we having fun? Are we learning? Are we fired up? Yes. Okay, good. Beth is nodding her head. I love it. Thank you. I can't see all of you because I'm sharing my screen, but it's funny. I feel like with Zoom, it only shows a few people at a time when I'm sharing my screen. So if I don't see you and I don't acknowledge you, just know it's not on purpose. It's only because I can't see you. Because I can see my screen and like 4 people. So feel free to type in the chat if you have any questions. Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate that. Cool. Nancy says I have the paid version of Canva. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So miniChat.com, again, I use it as a way to drive folks to my podcast. You'll notice, by the way, when you go to this post and you swipe through, it's one of those carousel posts. That content was content I mentioned in my podcast. So remember how I talked about repurposing? I did a 20-minute podcast and I took that content and turned that into a post. I've also turned that into some different videos. So longer form content sort of spliced up. Again, it's like work smarter, not harder, right? We don't want to reinvent the wheel every single time. Okay, couple last things as we get kind of towards the end here. And then, like I said, we're going to open it up to answer questions. Outside of, pillar content, video content, I still think there's a lot of value in celebrating your clients. Not all of your clients are on social media. Some are private, and those folks you're going to celebrate in other ways. But the other 60 to maybe even 80% of the folks you work with quite possibly are on Facebook or Instagram. And I think it's a great opportunity to celebrate them. And what you're seeing here is a picture of me and my husband 10 years ago when we bought our home. I can't believe it's been 10 years. I remember this day. This was the day we got our keys. This was the day our boys, who were so little, ran through the house and opened all the closets and ran through the backyard. And I remember taking my phone, handing it to our realtor. She took our picture. I posted it to Facebook. And this picture to date has gotten more likes and more comments than almost anything I've ever shared on Facebook. And I just share this because I think, especially now in 2025, I think there's still a huge value in being a noticer and shining the light on someone else. Instead of saying, sold another one today, one more in escrow, flipping that script and saying, I had an opportunity to work with this amazing family and I can't wait to see what's next for them, right? Like less about you, more about other people. And I just think there's a big opportunity there. Social media is a marathon, not a sprint. I know we talked about a lot of different things today, but the reality is it takes time, just like any other marketing. If you've done any other marketing in your business, door knocking, postcards, farming, direct mail, you can't just send one postcard and expect to get 12 listings. And it's the same thing with social media. It doesn't happen overnight, but it takes effort over the course of time. It takes getting it on your calendar, as we talked about, time blocking. It takes showing up, being intentional, coming up with a plan, something that's sustainable for you and your business, and then rinsing and repeating and showing up, and then just being patient, because it doesn't happen overnight. But when it happens, I can't tell you how awesome it is. The first time you get a Facebook message or an email or a call from someone that you have no idea who they are, and they're not a referral, and they didn't, come from Zillow or some sort of paid service, they came because they saw you. They came because they've been following you for 6 months. They came because they love your vibe. And out of all the realtors that they've seen, they want to work with you. That is an awesome way of doing business. So just keep that in mind. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I always like to finish with this. I don't know who needs to hear this today. If this is you, if you were looking for a sign, this is your sign. Take a picture of this one if you need to. Done is better than perfect. It's really easy to listen to this and go, oh my gosh, that was a lot. I've got a lot going on. I'll work on this next week. I recommend you just pick one or two things I talked about today and start implementing immediately. Progress over perfection. Let's not suffer from analysis paralysis. Done is better than perfect. The last thing I want to just share a couple quick resources. If this has been helpful for you, again, please download my free content grid. I'm not going to spam you, I promise, but this is going to help you tremendously just getting kickstarted in the new year. I don't know about you. I love pen and paper. I love being able to brainstorm. And when you're mapping out a plan, I think it's really important to be able to do that. So I'll drop the link in there one more time so you guys have that. That's just katielance.com/content grid. Also, I'll mention, if you like my style and you are curious about coaching and what that would look like, we have our Get Social Smart Academy. It is our membership program where you can sign up monthly or yearly and you get access to weekly live trainings. I do weekly trainings just like this every single week for our Academy members. I do master classes, we have content calendars, Canva templates, all kinds of good stuff. So you can go to katielance.com/academy. I can drop that link in the chat too, just so you guys can check that out at some point if that is something you are looking for. Okay, awesome. Oh my goodness, we finished with 6 minutes to spare. All right, that being said, let me know what you think. Did you enjoy this? Did we have fun? Was this good? And let me know what questions you guys had. Thank you, Jamie, for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. Let me know what questions you have. I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes to answer any questions that you have about social media or content. You can ask me anything. So feel free to unmute if you'd like, or you can type it in the chat. Oh, and yes, thank you for the reminder. I can see that in the chat. Save the date. Yes, my next class is going to be all about Instagram. So this was kind of a bigger overview of strategy and content. And then on March 26th at 11 a.m., we are doing a deep dive into all things Instagram. I have a lot to cover. There's a lot with Instagram. Instagram has changed so much since its inception, and it will probably continue to change. I would imagine by March there will be new things to talk about. So we'll talk about reels, stories, content, and how to really stay top of mind, especially organically, without spending a whole lot of money on ads. Abby says very informative. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Lisa. Will this recording be sent to participants? I believe so. I believe it'll either get sent. It might also get posted to their YouTube channel. It might also get emailed out. That's a great question. I don't know for sure. I'm going to drop my email in the chat because I can always get a copy of the recording and send that out if for some reason you don't get that. So I'll drop my email in the chat. And also feel free to email me, you guys. If you have a question, you're like, I don't want to ask this in front of everybody, just feel free to email me. And I'm going to drop my Instagram in here one more time, just so you guys have that. You can always send me a DM. See if I can type and do this at the same time. Awesome. Stephanie says, this is very helpful. I'll try to do an Instagram. Yay. Yeah. If you can, if you're not on Instagram yet, you might want to, I would actually recommend that you set up your Instagram before that class. That's going to be helpful. You don't necessarily have to, but it would be helpful if you had it set up so we have somewhere to start. But if you've got an Instagram and you haven't used it in a while, that's fine. Or for those of you more advanced on Instagram, it's not a beginner class. I would say it's more middle of the road. So whether you are new or advanced, there's going to be a lot to cover, which will be fun. Oh, Nancy Cal has her hand up. Oh, okay, cool. I didn't see that. Nancy, you have your hand up. Did you want to unmute? And
I did. So, thank you for the class. Good information. Now, my question is, I'm not the best at posting. I'm not the best at videos. I can come up with some amazing ideas. But my question is, for us that are a little more computer challenged than others, in your coaching, do you help us along with those baby steps, or however you want to put that politely to?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's more on a group basis. We don't really do sort of the one-on-one. But yeah, we absolutely do that. We've got folks who are at all different stages, at the sort of beginning stages, the hoops folks who might struggle with, technology, all the way to people who've been doing this for quite a long time and just like the ongoing training and accountability. So absolutely. And it's part of the reason in our academy that I do weekly live classes. Every month we have a theme. So like this month in January, it's all about strategy and planning. And so every week I'm able to go deep into a specific topic and really do training on it. And then we have a private Facebook group where our members can go in, share, ask questions. And for all of our members, I always let them know, look, you can email me anytime if you have specific questions about your specific platforms or something you're working on. And, I'm available one-on-one, at least for email and social media, to answer any specific questions. But yeah, there's a lot of that. And part of it too is it just takes time. It's hard to just come to one class and be like, okay, I got it. It's like anything else. My kids just learned how to drive. They had to go through 6 months of driver's training. It's kind of that same thing. It takes time to kind of absorb. So does that help?
Yeah, I've been in real estate now for 25 years. I'm new to the Mississippi area, so I've got to change all my content. I'm starting over. And so I've always paid somebody to do all my stuff. And I figured this time I would try to figure it out on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong in having someone that you pay to help, and I've done both. I've had, folks that we've worked with who've done a lot for us. And then it's interesting. I'm at the point right now where I'm doing a lot myself. And I just found that there's just something to be said about learning it yourself. Even if at some point you do bring on an assistant or someone to help you with, you're even more knowledgeable because you were in the trenches, you kind of go through that process of seeing what needs to be done. It helps you also hire smarter in the future too. So
I've done well with that, but yeah, it's just, yeah. No. I will message you. I'll figure out what we need to do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no pressure. Awesome. Cool. Thanks for
Mhm.
asking that.
Of
Anybody
course.
else? Anybody else have any other questions? I did put my email in the chat, so if you didn't catch that, I can drop it in one more time. It's just katie@katielance.com. And we also have a lot of free resources also on our website. We have a whole section on with just freebies on our website. So there's some great resources over there too. All right, well, it looks like we're at the hour mark. I think we are going to wrap it up. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Like I said, feel free to download that free content grid. Feel free to check out our academy if you are interested in some ongoing learning and coaching. And I can't wait to be back in March. March 26th, we'll be talking all about Instagram. So I can't wait to see you then. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.